Hey, I'm just about ready to head out to the range and test 2 boxes of factory ammo in my Barrett MRAD rifle chambered in 300 PRC. Those 2 boxes of ammo are both from Berger, and the first one is Berger's 215 grain hybrid target bullet, and the second is Berger's 245 grain elite hunter bullet. So I will be shooting, by the way, from the prone position, 2 5-shot groups at 100 yards, and we're going to see how this goes. So let's head out to the range and start shooting. .2976, it's going. There we go. 2932. Wow, that's over 3,000. Well, that's interesting. That's kind of good, but it's also kind of odd that we got such variability in the velocities. .30-34. That's wild. That's wild. Well, that's 5 with the 215 grain Bergers. Gonna let this cool for a little while. I'm getting a lot of shimmer. It's pretty warm out here. Gonna let the whole rifle cool for a little bit. Load up 5 rounds of 245 grain Berger and see how those shoot. Looks like a nice group from here. Lost about 200, 300 feet per second, but that's okay. This is a 245 grain bullet, and the other, of course, was a 215. You got a good view of all that, but we're going to take a close look at it and discuss the results. Hope you stick around. Well, the results are pretty clear. A 0.95 MOA group with the 215 grain Berger bullet, and a 0.44 MOA group for the 245 grain Berger bullet. Now I should note that it took me, if you watch that timer in the upper left screen, you'll notice that it took me about 1 minute longer to shoot the 215 grain group, the first group, compared to the second group. Now the reason for that is I didn't take a lot more time, really. The reason for that is you'll notice that, or might remember that shot number 2 did not get a velocity from that lab radar, so I paused. I didn't include all that stuff in the video that you saw, so I had to pause, correct the lab radar, and then get back into position. That took me about a minute to do that. And then resumed shooting. I don't think that little bit of a break messed up my shooting. Nothing like that. We don't see a flyer or anything like that, really. It did group really relatively well, okay at least, but nowhere near as good as did the 245 grain Berger bullet. Going into this, I'll tell you that I actually expected the 245 grain bullet to outperform the 215. Here's why. Number one, my Barrett MRAD rifle has a 1 in 8 twist. that is relatively common in the 300 PRC, but not across the board. There are different twist rates that are used for the 300 PRC. So that faster twist rate is actually advantageous for those heavier, or rather I should say longer for caliber bullets like the 245. In addition, past experience has shown me that that particular rifle prefers, if you want to call it that, or performs better with those heavier bullets. Last year we did an entire season on extreme reloading, where we reloaded for this same Barrett MRAD rifle. I tested a 220 some grain bullet versus a 230 grain bullet, and once again, even that little bit of a difference, the heavier 230 grain bullet outperformed the lighter 220 grain bullet. If you're interested in that series, Extreme Reloading Series, Season 10, you will find the link to that playlist in the description below. Now, while both the 215 grain and 245 grain bullets are stabilized, they're well stabilized coming out of the barrel of this 26-inch barrel MRAD rifle. They're both stabilized, but the 215 grain is closer to what we would call an overspin on that bullet. So when we calculate the RPMs, revolutions per minute, of those two bullets, we'll see that we're almost at 270,000 RPMs for the 215 grain bullet and about 240,000 RPMs for the heavier 245. Kind of the rule of thumb for that is we do not want to exceed 300,000 RPMs for any bullet. We do see that sometimes, like the 300 Blackout with those very, very heavy, long for caliber bullets there, that we do get some tremendous RPMs which can exacerbate any defect in those bullets and almost, in that case, makes those bullets fly apart if they're not a solid metal bullet. But I digress just a little bit using that as an example. Again, both of these bullets were well stabilized. I'm sure that the 215 is officially not spinning too fast, but it is certainly spinning faster than the 245, and we might be seeing a little bit more of these effects that tend to pull the bullet or open up its dispersion. Now, while the ballistic coefficient of these particular bullets isn't going to play much of a role in the precision at this relatively close range, it's only 100 yards, I will put this information out there that the 215 grain has a G1 ballistic coefficient of 0.691 compared to the 245 grain bullet at 0.807, quite a bit higher for, again, that long for caliber, more aerodynamic bullet. And I'm also putting out the G7 ballistic coefficients here. Those are actually better, more accurate ballistic coefficients, and certainly, once again, we see the 245 grain bullet is quite a bit higher than the 215. Now, I'll note this, that while in my rifle, and I suspect this is going to be the case with the Barrett MRAD in 300 PRC across the board, but in my rifle, yes, this bullet, 245, performed better. You may not see that exact same thing. A lot of that is going to be based on the twist rate of your particular 300 PRC rifle. If you're using one of those brands or types of barrels with a slower twist rate, then you may see much better results with the lighter, shorter 215 grain bullet. This Barrett also has quite a long barrel, 26-inch barrel, bull barrel, not too affected at all by the heating, but just to make things as comparable as possible, I did give a 7-minute cool down in between groups 1 and group 2. By the way, you may have noticed that in this particular box of ammo, this is the 215, that this bullet is called a hybrid target. I want to talk just a little bit about that. What does hybrid mean in this instance? Some folks think it means, well, it's a target as well as a hunting bullet. That's why they call it hybrid. Don't make that mistake to think that. Hybrid, in Berger parlance, means that the ogive is a hybrid ogive. Hybrid between what? Hybrid between a tangent ogive and a secant ogive. So that's what that means. Hybrid means this, and so it should not be too particular about the jump distance from where this bullet sits once chambered to the lead or the beginning of the rifling. So that's what that means. I kind of throw out that for an FYI. Now, if you've got some questions about what we did, maybe some observations or some experience with similar long for caliber bullets, maybe some other 300 PRC stuff, please post that in the comments section below. I'll try to answer your questions as promptly as possible. And as always, folks, thank you for watching.